All right. All right, folks, we are live. Welcome back to another This Week in Photo critique. This one is critique number 217. And as my co host over here titled this particular critique, it's nature. It's all about nature. And I struggled with
All
that. I
about
was like, is
nature.
it nature? Is it natural? Is it I don't know, but things with nature in it. But we're doing nature, and I think we got a good crop of selections in there, man. So thank you. That
We
was a
do.
good topic. Is that the first time we did nature? I don't remember.
I don't know. I think it might have been a while since we've done anything. Normally, we do stuff that's more specific, and nature is kind of like very generic, which was nice. That's why I think we have like 30 images.
Is it that many? Yeah. Well, I mean, it's that, and I finally got on the ball, and I'm sending out the reminder
Yeah,
emails to people. So, yeah, sound off in the chat if the reminder email is the one thing that got you off the couch to go out and submit to this one. It'd be
that's fun.
helpful.
I'm
Well,
going
cool,
through right
man.
now and resizing all the images in the post so they're so they're full width. It's driving me nuts. I gotta,
So they're OCD friendly posts in there.
yeah. So
I
so
know.
make sure that you refresh.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna
For
do that
me.
right now. I am gonna do that right now. Yeah. Cool. This is good. And welcome everybody in the chat. Good to see you all in there. I see Phil in there. La Duderina's in there. Paolo's in there. Rick, welcome. Deborah Cole's in here. Hey, Deborah. Yeah, good. Lots of people. More will show up, I'm sure. But yeah, like you said, we got a ton to go through and about an hour to do it. So we're going to dive in just a second here. Before we do that, how are you doing? How are you doing? I know I always
Doing
ask how
good.
you're doing. How you? Everything good? You happy?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I know that you and I talked about my mom, who was in the hospital. She had a minor stroke. She is hopefully getting checked out today, and she's in really good spirits. A lot of mobility. She's doing really really good. So thank goodness it was super minor.
Yeah.
Um, so there's always that high peak of stress, and what do you do? Do you put your life on hold, and then oh wait, it's not as bad as we thought. So it's still a stroke.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's never
Oh,
like not bad, but yeah.
no. Yeah. Oh, I'm right there with you, man. Yeah, I mean, you know the whole story about my dad, right? He had a stroke and then during COVID, and then ultimately passed about a year and a half later. So, not
Right.
fun. That the whole
No.
process was just yeah. So when you
No,
told me that, I was like, oh crap, here we go. Yeah.
and I have my favorite cameras here. My Z8, my Z9 are like keeping me company. So I just thought I would
Emotional
throw that in.
support.
My emotional support camera.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not gonna say anything about marriage because ideally that should have been like Margie's
Well,
like, no, Margie, go hang out. I just need to hang with my cameras for a while.
oh
It'll be
man.
fine. Oh, this is good. This is gonna be a good one. All right, everybody. Again, thank you for showing up to this. Rick's in here now. Yeah. We are gonna dive into this one right now. This is critique 217, and the topic was nature. Yeah. So let's do it. Who's first? I just reloaded this, by the way. So
Okay,
first up
yeah.
is, yeah, I know, Karen Sweeney. She says, "Gray Huron having a think at the river's edge with a backdrop of Himalayan balsam." Let's take a look. Look at that!
Oh,
Wow, look at
that's
my cursor.
great.
My cursor's huge. What's going on here? I think I ticked a setting somewhere that said "make cursor huge."
What the?
Jeez. Okay,
Oh,
you'll see where I'm
what did you
pointing.
get? That's offensive. Get that off the
I
screen.
know. Look at
Gee.
that. What is going on? Like covers the whole bird's head. Look at that. Yeah, I'm trying
That's
to
how
tell
that's
you
how
about
Frederick
this.
normally works because he can't see, so he's got a giant cursor that
Just get
looks like
there.
a teacup.
Hey, man, use the tools that you have to make life easier. That's all I'm saying.
Oh
All right,
God, we got it. Yeah,
tell me about this
focus.
shot. I'm curious. Yeah, we got to get through this, man. We got to.
Yeah, I know. um, okay. I love everything that's going on here. My favorite thing about this shot is the reflection. I think that it's so wonderful that we don't see this like super traditional reflection that's in a completely unobstructed, water, it's just like a mirror. Like I love the fact that we have the reeds and the grass and the plants and the sticks and the river or whatever, the lake that's there. I said I dig that. I think that's super cool. Compositionally, I think it's really fun. I love that we've got our subject in the upper right hand corner. I think where I'm struggling with this a little bit is the reeds or the grass that we have in the lower left is equally prominent as is your bird, the main subject.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I would work on bringing that down to create that depth with the lighting. Other than that, I mean, this is really really well done.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good shot. Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. Yeah, and the competition, right? And I was thinking, using the tools that we have today, and this is a great question for you, because you and I have talked extensively offline about all the technological advances that are, bearing down on or coming to the toolboxes of content creators everywhere. But
Right.
in a shot like this, I feel like it would benefit from a slightly more blurry background, and maybe, like you're saying, bring the tonal range of the foreground reads down a little bit, all in service of making that Huron pop out a little more. Would you do that? I mean, first of all, compositionally, does that make sense to do that? To like just sort of drop the background, maybe make it a little bit slightly out of focus to kind of simulate a longer lens, and then sort of bring the values down of the reads in the foreground. Does it make sense to do that? And should we use the tools that we have to do that?
It does make sense, and I am a huge fan of using the tools to create your art, as long as you're not encroaching in like a photojournalistic area where you have to be truthful about, oh, hey, this is how I created the image, right? And you fudged it. I'm all about the creative aspect of it, and you're absolutely right. I mean, if you looked at the top left hand corner and you look at the bushes that are there, you notice are slightly soft and slightly darker than the bushes in the upper right hand corner. Now, at this sense, it's like there's really no way for me to know how far away those are. I mean, as a photographer, I know there's a lot of compression going on. So I want to make sure that the image stays true to what is actually happening there. You can't make it look like you shot it with like a 1.8. That's not going to look the same. But to make it slightly softer and slightly less bright is really the key. It just has to be a tick, just a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, just enough,
Yeah.
just a little seasoning, right? Just a little pinch of salt
Yeah. Yeah.
to unlock the flavor, right? which is
Yeah. And
our subject.
use the tools to your moral high ground or to your moral border, right? Like everybody
Hmm.
kind of has their like, oh, I only want to edit this much or I want to edit that much. I'm like, I'm all in, man.
Yeah,
Like I'll do whatever it takes to make that image look the way I want. I'm
yeah.
not going to edit in a National Geographic, photo comp and say it's natural, but I'm all in on the art. So
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, and we've talked about this over the years exhaustively, right? About the whole idea that pixels. I say pixels were born to be punished, right? So if you're
yeah,
creating something that is, I mean, it's art for art's sake, or you're creating something that you're hoping will be aesthetically pleasing to a certain group of people, whomever that may be, then it's your canvas. I mean, like not using the tools that we have, of course, ethical considerations notwithstanding, but not using the
right.
tools that we have feels like an artist, one of the great masters back in the day, saying, you know what, using blue paint is heresy. I'm not going to use blue paint for reasons. So, move
Yeah,
forward. It was completely arbitrary. So, yeah, use the
it
tools,
is.
man.
It
Use
is.
them. They're
I'm
awesome.
down. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. So many cool things out here to play with. All
Yeah.
right.
And I've been playing a lot with the new Photoshop beta to test the generative AI and
Yeah.
its content aware removal and things like that. It's
Dude.
it's going to change how I work. It's fantastic. Not for adding For me, it's not about adding artificial content. It's about the ability to remove an offending twig or a stick or a trash can.
Sure.
It's like,
Yeah. But
love
it
it.
goes so much further than that, right? So yeah, you can do that and easily. I mean, we could remove offending things out of photographs we've been able to do that since the beginning of Photoshop, but it was harder with Photoshop 1 than it is now with Photoshop. I don't even know what number we're on now. But the other piece of it is, Phil brings up a good point. Let me bring up his comment here. Phil says, at what point does it cease to be a photograph though? Right? So that's the thing, Phil. We're not saying, like, what is a photograph? What is what is a photograph in today's vernacular? What's a photograph?
It's not okay. All right, like 30 seconds, hard stop.
Here we go.
A photograph is a scientific process of capturing photons. Okay, so it's not interpretive. It's you captured photons, whether it's film or digital or a substrate, whatever. You have to capture photons. So the debate becomes, at what point have you manipulated the pixels that were once photons and it no longer becomes a photograph? It becomes an illustration or a piece of art. I'm not going to go into that. That's a lifelong debate, right?
No, that's a podcast. That's a podcast, which we will have, sir.
But a photograph is a definitive thing. It's not subjective. It's a definitive thing.
Yeah.
So, right.
Don't send me even the word
messages, because
yeah, send them to Troy. Troy at thisweekinphoto.com. You guys, you can get them right there. But no, seriously, I don't know. The word photograph itself means recorder of or recording light, light, graph, recording, right? So I would argue we're I wouldn't say beyond that, but we've added a lot of dimensions to that. So we'll leave it right there.
We have. Yeah, we have. Oh, no. This is a great conversation. Keep asking the questions. Keep challenging the definition. Keep challenging the topics. Like, so many things in our society that we have to define and understand. Photography is now becoming one of those, right? And AI and generative work, what's human work, what's generated work, what's artificial, like, only society is going to help define that. So
that's right.
Keep pressing. Keep pressing and asking questions.
I have a problem with the blanket term photography, and using the word photography as if it's a holy grail, and it is the end all be all of content creation of all that is true. I think, at some point we crossed the Rubicon of you can't trust anything. Maybe it was Photoshop, right? You can't trust anything you see with your eyes. So how far down that rat hole are we going to go? So
okay, let's just remember that started the day that a photograph was made. They were lying to us. All right,
that's right.
Let's get, and because you said we need to get through all these images.
I'm good. Hey, I got all the time in the world. Yeah, this is you know what? Smug Mug, which is the company that owns my company, is off today for Juneteenth. Thank you.
Nice.
That, which is now a federal holiday, so we're shut down. So I'm actually in my off time now doing this show.
Oh,
which is good. No, I don't have any off time. That's the whole joke of it all. I have no off time. No. All right, and I don't want any. That's the meaning. That's the secret to life, right? Doing what you love. You're not gonna work a day in your life. All right, let's move on to the next shot. Is from Peter Livshin. The sea, he calls this. When I look at this, I think coffee beans. I don't know why. It feels like coffee beans. But look at this.
Coffee beans.
Yeah, this looks like a shot. If you blur your eyes and think coffee, this looks like a top-down shot of a can or some sort of container with coffee beans in it that someone's shaking with a long exposure. That's what I thought at first. And then you zoom into it and you see that, it's much more detailed than that.
Dude, you need more like vitamin C or something, because like the neurons are not firing. I don't know what's going on in there.
Yeah, it's called age, my friend.
I see seaweed, by the way, so that's nice. I do love this image. This is the kind of image that I think can really be appreciated super big, because anytime we take a photo of something that the subject matter is smaller in frame and we recognize it, it's hard to enjoy. So just, this is a kind of image that I would love to have hanging or see in a gallery or something very large. And Peter loves to print large images, so this is something that he may end up doing. This is wonderful. I love this. The chaos, the organic patterns that's going on. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, one thing I thought I wanted to everything you said. Yeah, 100%. Looking at the shot, I'm looking at the border treatment on this, which is kind of a grayish blue, kind of thickish border around here. Does that work for this? I feel like I want these kinds of shots. I feel like I want either a solid black border, which would get lost here, or a white,
Right.
or even a slightly off-white border on something
Look
like
at
this.
you. Yeah.
I know, I'm getting into the border
Nailing
game. Look at that.
I will say, and I say this with a sprinkling of love, my friend Peter. This border is gross. Yeah, this is not a good border, and Frederick nailed it. So great image, bad border.
Yeah, yeah. I want to know what you were, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, but what were you thinking when you put this border on there? I mean, it's not horrible, but it's just like, what? You know, maybe it's with a series of other images that have similar, they're leaning into the border in similar ways. I don't know.
Yeah.
But not a
Yeah.
fan of the border. I think on this one, I'd want it white or off-white. Maybe pick a gray from within one of the highlights in the image and use that as the
Yeah.
border color.
No, wonderful image. This is really seeing the unseen. If you've never shot infrared, if you were to walk out there and look at this in the day, you'd be able to see a little bit into the water. The seaweed's going to be brown or dark. It might be middle of the day and it's just flat lighting, or it's just super bright and there's no contrast anywhere. And then you look at it through infrared and you're like, holy shit, there is a whole nother world out there, a whole nother lighting world that's amazing. So
That's a whole nother discussion too, man. I mean, I've been tempted by let's call you the convert your camera to infrared siren of the group, right? And I'm conflicted. I'm like, do I take one of these bodies and just permanently alter it to do one thing?
not permanent.
It just hurts to
permanent.
send one of my babies. It's like sending one of your emotional support cameras off to have it permanently altered. I don't know. It's hard.
If I could afford another $4,000, I would definitely get a Z8 converted to infrared. But instead, I'm going to use a Z6 II. Oh, heck yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
Yep.
One day. And then it's the micro four thirds thing. I have at least one micro four thirds camera left. I'm like, should I take that one and convert it? And then there's the resolution issue and, the latitude, of capturing highlights to shadows and all that. And of course I have software that could blow things up, like Topaz Gigapixel AI and the other ones around that to get it bigger. But then I think, okay, I have full frame cameras. Maybe I'll just convert one of those. But that's a full frame camera. I don't want to mess with it.
And this is the process that Frederick's been going through for like 3 years now on infrared. So it never ends.
Hence no infrared camera. Hence no infrared.
Get a camera. Oh my
I know. I should just go grab a used awesome camera for a couple $100 and send it off to your guys. Yes.
Use a real camera. It's not permanent. It's reversible. So you're fine.
Yeah, that's what they say about vasectomies. Sure.
Wow, we are diving deep.
It's Monday, man. It's a holiday. I'm allowed. All right, let's keep going here. Peter, thank you for that. Change that border and post the changed border in the comments for this one.
Yeah.
All right,
Non-gross.
Kai. Yeah, a non-gross border, please. Kai's up next. He says, let's do this. Here's another side and angle of Half Dome in Yosemite. Sunlight and rock formations not created or manufactured by humans. See that? Okay, just a quick pause. We're going to take some tangents in this. I gave a talk, as you know, I gave a talk at Infocom last week on artificial intelligence and streaming and content creation and all that. And part of my talk was, for a lot of the things that I'm doing, like on the consulting side and corporate side, I'm now feeling the need to put that tagline in there. Like, I made this, no AI was used, or I use AI for this segment, or, it's so weird where we are. And I was thinking, that's just text. And I'm thinking, it also extends into images now. You submit a fantastic, beautiful image, like this one Kai submitted, and you feel the need to You know, we were seeing that a couple years ago, right? When the sky replacement was all the rage and people were like, oh yeah, this sky was actually there. I didn't replace the sky. So,
Yeah.
which kind of takes away. I don't know. It's a weird time we're in.
Yeah. Now everybody just replaced the sky and nobody asks.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Sky's the least of your worries. It's like the Half Dome wasn't actually here. I put it in there.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think? What do you think of this shot?
I love this image. Kai has been always known in the community for his minimalistic approach, and I think that this is such a wonderful image in that sense. You don't need a lot of other details happening in order for us to be drawn into this. I mean, we have this wonderful layer of tones, from lighter at the top to like the mid-tone of the background Half Dome to that little light, which is the main subject, and then the darker foreground creates depth. That's super wonderful. You've got this layering of color from cool to warm to cool with warm and then cool again. So another great thing, our brains just love that kind of stuff. Like we just chew on that all day. And then of course our subject easily pops out, right? Our subject is just very easy to find. We don't have to try super hard. My only suggestion would be, and I don't know if this is a good suggestion or not, I would have to play with the images. I feel like the dome is like dead center horizontally, and I also feel like the sky and the foreground have equal weight, and I would want to crop one or the other a little bit, maybe just to give one more prominence than the other. Yeah. But I know that Kai is very intentional about his images, so I'm assuming he already did that, and this was what it was. So yeah. But I would want to try that.
Yeah, agreed. My only comments on this shot, and I think this might be an artifact of, who knows how this is coming through on the stream, but even on the website with the compression that gets added when you upload into the Circle community, which is very minimal, it's still crushing his shadows down. I'm losing a lot of shadows, especially over, kind of down on this side. I'm losing those, and I gotta think that there was some data in here that just got crushed into oblivion. But, two things I do agree. I love these shots that have the obvious strata in here. And, Kai did that intentionally with the sky, the midground with our subject, and then the foreground, that kind of semi-silhouetted tree line up here. Love that. Agreed. Maybe one of these, top or bottom, could be a little bit less equal to the other to give us a little bit more, I don't know, oomph and drive into the image. I don't know which one, so you'd have to play with that. The other thing, I don't even think you could change this, Kai, but I love that the Half Dome is right here. I feel like I want to see it breaking the horizon up here. I don't know if that's just kind of you crouching down a little bit, if that was possible from the perspective and with the focal length you were using. But I love this strata, and I feel like I want to have it interrupted with Half Dome up here just a little bit, just to kind of accentuate that this is my hero or my protagonist of this particular story. Other than that, it's great. I love the color balance. I love the toning. I love the kind of mistiness of this mid area. It kind of definitely brings you into Half Dome. So really cool.
Yep. I love it. And for those of you that are looking at this image, just bring it up and hold your hand up and crop it in various ways and just kind of see how it changes the mood and the dominance of Half Dome. For example, like I think if you cropped off like half of the bottom, it makes Half Dome more prominent because it feels like it's bigger, right? But right now so it's all about size and perspective and shape, and also the story that the artist wants to tell. So yeah, really great image.
I got to take another quick tangent here, just really quick. I promise this will be really quick. It's photography.
Let me get my support camera just in case it goes bad.
Get your Thor's hammer over there.
I'm ready.
Cropping, on the topic of cropping and aspect ratios. And we have some photographers, some in the community, that swear by, I'm going to shoot this aspect ratio always. It's going to be part of my look, part of my signature. Like Paolo, for example. Paolo uses a particular aspect ratio with a particular border treatment, which I really love. And, you kind of know that's kind of part of his signature. Other people don't really pay attention. They crop based on what the content of the image is that they're trying, and the story that they're trying to tell. What do you think? I know there's no one right answer in creative stuff like this, but where do you fall on that? Like crop or not crop, religious aspect ratio adhesion or not? What do you think?
As an artist, paint on the canvas that you want to paint on. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, if you want everything square, I mean, back in the day when I shot Hasselblad, that was the rage. Like, if you're a real photographer, you shot everything square. It
Mm-hmm.
really doesn't matter. From my perspective, as a photographer that makes a living selling my photographs to clients, I have to think in printable sizes, wall hanging sizes. So I crop to the image, and I crop what's going to hang best in their home.
Yeah.
I know Peter and I have this conversation when he's hanging fine art. We crop absolutely for the image, regardless of where it's going to hang, and we
Mm.
print for size, and we crop, to make that image speak the best volume. So
Okay.
it's definitely not something that's talked about enough. It's definitely not something that a lot of photographers think about as part of their art, and it
Mm-hmm.
absolutely is, the
Yeah.
format that you use. So
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel maybe it's the I know pangs of OCD in my head or something. But when I see, like in my house, I have pictures hanging on the walls, and they're all the same aspect ratio, and they're the same size. I think that's because, or the not the same size, but the same aspect ratio with very similar frames and matting on them, and that's intentional because I like that look, and I like the
right.
uniform look of display, and also like the ability to move stuff around and not have to worry about, oh well, this size is not going to work there. They're all the same, right? Just move wherever you want to move, and it
Yeah.
kind of makes that piece of the art fall away, to be honest, because they're all the same. So you don't need to care about the border and the frame. For the most part, it's all about the content. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's a dialogue we should start inside the community. Maybe at the next mixer, we'll chat about that.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah, this
fun.
shot. Yeah, it is fun. This shot, yeah, beautiful. I love it. I love this shot. Really good. I wonder what this would have looked like in infrared, though.
Oh, it would have looked really good. So
Really? Just run an
yeah.
infrared filter on it in Photoshop. You're good.
Yeah, just do that. Yeah, you guys, everybody else just do that. Us
Let's do
photographers will
that.
have cameras. We'll use cameras.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I wonder what Mid Journey or one of those guys would do if you told it to render a scene in infrared. Could it do it?
Oh, it's bomb. I've
Oh,
done
you
it.
tried it?
It's
You tried that?
amazing. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I
Oh,
yeah.
interesting. Must
Yeah.
play. Must play today. All right. Up next is Raphael Swift. He says, "Swollen mountain laurel buds on the bank of the Beaver Pond."
That's really
Oh, how
cool.
romantic. This feels like a soap opera. As the
Yeah.
world turns,
Yeah, I like that.
so do the days of our lives.
Oh my god. I'm cropping in the yeah, it
Oh,
needs
yeah.
to be
Oh, yeah. Let me put you on the screen here so you can see your cropping.
Yeah, I don't know. I have you covered up, so I can't tell if I'm on screen. Oh, I see, and I'm in the bubble. So see, every
Yes.
time the image comes up, I'm always like, this one or that one. Um,
Yeah. But you think it needs a crop. That's the takeaway.
Seriously, because really, the center flower there in the middle of the three is the one that's in focus, and that's the one that's really grabbing my attention. But it's the minor subject in the entire frame, and the lower right hand corner, there's nothing there. And I think when you have a mass that big or an area that big and there's nothing in it, I really think you need to consider removing it.
Mm,
And I would suggest, try to see that as you shoot, so that you can change your composition so that you don't have to crop it later, right?
yeah. Yeah.
um I mean, I love this image, Raphael. What a great perspective, and it's awesome that you saw this and you went in close and you got that shallow perspective. I really, really love that a lot. I love the color harmony. It's very simple. We have really two tones working. Um, it's just that lower right hand corner. So I would get in and crop a little bit, and then maybe burn down what would become the lower left hand corner with the flower that's going to maybe be near the edge of the frame.
Hmm.
I would maybe bring that down, but I dig it. Yeah, perfect
Yeah.
nature shot. Wow, that's like right there.
Yeah. This is fun. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. That we do get lost kind of in this little abyss down here in the lower right. Again, we've talked about this in many other previous critiques, but um, I think you always say, Troy, if you were an artist and you were painting this, would you waste the time and the paint and the effort to paint that area like that? Because it has to be in service of the overall image, and there's a cost to rendering this area. So if you think in those terms, you're like, oh no, I'm not using all that time and paint to get that, when it's not really selling the main story of what the heroes of the shot are. So yeah.
True.
Yeah,
True.
I agree. Yeah, really nice. I love this treatment though. It's like, again, very soft, very, almost like greeting card for mom type look we've got going on.
Yeah.
All right. Thank
Well
you,
done, Raphael.
Mr. Swift. Yes. And up next is Deborah Cole. And Deborah's in the chat, I believe. Hey, Deborah. Deborah says, "Oi, what's more natural than gathering rays on a summer day with bird friends on a lawn in Paris?" I've been to this park. I think I've been here. These are those giant trees that line this park on the left and the right. I love this place. This is really cool. Okay, remember our topic is nature. What do we think? We've got tons of nature. Humans are nature. Birds are nature. Trees are nature. What do you think?
Oh yeah. I'm not really questioning any of that. I think that it's such a wonderful image. Again, I'm doing the crappie thing. I think that first of all, I love the story, and I love the photojournalistic style, and I love the black and white treatment. If that bird wasn't in there, if that pigeon wasn't in there, it wouldn't be as much fun. I think that having that gives a nice secondary hook. So I really appreciate that. So that's really, really cool. The space on the right hand side, we'll call it next to that border that's running along the grass. I would crop out a majority of that space on the right. And then what happens is now you've got this wonderful leading lines and space on the left. You got that border on the right that's kind of stopping us from disappearing off of into the planter, if you will, under the trees, which there's really nothing going on there. And then my only other suggestion is I can see where there was some burning that was done in the sky over the building in the back, and that's a little bit harsh, and I can kind of see that. And then just rotate your verticals. The building is going to slide off into our left. Yeah. And I would rotate it. So
yeah, our people as well are kind of slanted to the left a little bit. Yeah, and that's one of the big things, right? Or one of the first things you look at is it level? Because my brain instantly goes to that, especially in these wide angle shots like this. It goes to, are my lines vertical and horizontal? And then you kind of interpret the rest of the scene from that. But compositionally, right. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, the cropping in a little bit tighter, picking who your subject is going to be. I think this interaction down here is the hero of the shot. The rest of these people are supporting actors, as is the background and the trees back there. So maybe cheat a little bit to make it more obvious that you want the viewer of this image to look here and see this interaction. There's so much high frequency stuff going on back there. I get lost trying to see what they're doing. What's this guy doing right here? The building's, sliding to the side a little bit. So I get lost in that a little bit. I have a little abyss over here to the right with no detail. So I'm wondering what's happening over there and why did the artist choose to include that in there? It must be important, but what's in there, right? So with that, keep all that in mind as you're creating a piece of music that you want to evoke a certain kind of feeling, and you want to draw the viewer into the image to certain areas. Where are those areas? Right now it's here. So all the rest of the stuff, you need to make them not as interesting as this part right here. So yeah, cool shot though. Really cool. Yeah, I miss Paris. Miss it.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. I also want to point out, and maybe Frederick, you can see it, but the gentleman that's laying on his back directly above our main subject, it looks like his right leg, right at his calf, there's a dark spot that goes over his leg in the grass.
Right there.
Yeah. So, I would say the less that you manipulate the image, the better, until you get really good at it, and nobody can tell. That's the key, right?
Yeah, and that's part of it, right? I mean, part of the tools that we have available to us today make that much easier to get what's in your head, which is why I'm so excited about this stuff. It used to be to take an image like this and say, yeah, I want to just burn this guy down accurately, and I don't want to mess with grass around them. It was, you know, depending on your skill level and your, back in the day, your mastery of Bezier curves and all that, it would have been a task, right? Which kept making a technically accurate photo harder for newer people or people that haven't invested the time to do all that Bezier path and understanding selections and paths and channels and all that. But all that's behind us for the most part now. You can, which makes it, you know, some people say, yeah, that makes it, you know, it's cheapening the art of photography. I disagree. I think that it removes the, I think of it like this. There are people that are artists have a ton of whatever their art is in them to get out. And then there are barriers to getting that out, whether it be, okay, you need to read the Photoshop Bible, or you need to take these courses on Photoshop, or you need to go do this and that. And then you'll be able to do these things. And only then will you be able to get that story or those stories in your head out in the medium that you've chosen. Well, now those barriers are falling. So those stories have less of a path of resistance to get out to the public. It's easier for me to tell a story now. Like musicians as well. Like, remember when GarageBand came out and it was, now anybody can create music. It just made it easier for the talented people with good audio stories to tell, like music, to tell those stories. So I don't know. I'm bullish on the whole thing.
And to add to that, I mean, like, you know, painters thought photographers were not artists, but I can't paint, but because of photography, because of that new media, I can be artistic. Very much like what we're going to start to see with, you know, the AI and the generative AI and the Photoshop skills. We're going to have somebody who might not be able to visually capture the images, but they can build them. And now that tool is going to allow them to be an artist. And I don't want to discourage anybody from being an artist and creating art. I mean, that's really wonderful. So
that's exciting to me. I mean, that's really exciting to me. It's almost like you know, we're on the verge of another renaissance or something, because all these, I mean, from people that have a story to tell, on, you know, a written story to tell, but can't because of certain barriers. Now those barriers are not as heavy now. Or people that want to try a certain kind of photography, they can experiment with it virtually and then go out and do it if they want, or go out and do it and fix it or augment it. It's just, it's an embarrassment of riches. It's really crazy.
Yeah.
I love it.
Super cool.
But Deborah, thank you for submitting this, Luxembourg. This is a really cool shot, and thank you for joining the stream and participating in this critique. It's good to see a new face in here. Awesome. Welcome. All right. Moving on next. Nora is up. A juvenile white rhino and mother follow a well-worn path that leads to the next watering hole. Symmetry. Oh, look at that, Nora.
You know, when I first looked at this, I'm like, it's just a rhino walking, and I'm like, no, wait, it's Nora's. Like, I've got to look more. I've got to, like, you know. So I made it bigger, and I'm like, there's 4 ears. There's 4 ears. There's like 8 legs. Like, what the heck?
She's found a long lost organism.
Yeah, it's like a rhinopede.
There you go.
Nora, I love this. I really love this image, and I love how fun it is. I love how, you know, right off the bat, you think you know what it is, and then it takes a second, and then you realize, like, okay, very Escher-esque, right? Like, I don't know what I'm looking at, and then it clicks. For me, photographically, I would lean into a square crop, and then I would lean heavy into like a semi-contrasty black and white. I think that would really, really carry this image a long way, is doing that. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that's 100%. Although this kind of wide crop, not bad. I don't hate it. You know, it kind of brings us in, especially if it's in context with a bunch of other shots that are, again, back to the aspect ratio thing, that are in a similar aspect ratio. But I love this one. I think that what gets me about this shot is you're right, Troy. There are many different ways to interpret this shot. You could do a square crop and lean into sort of the symmetry that she's captured here. I personally love this. I love it
color because it kind of brings me into it, but she's muted the color and it's soft. So I almost get lost in it trying to find out what's going on. Then I'm surprised with the little Easter egg in the middle as that kind of reveals itself as I figure it out. And I can't bring out guidelines to kind of test this, but it feels like the eyes are smack dab in the middle of the screen. Like if you took this into Photoshop and drew out a line vertical and horizontal, I feel like the intersection of that would be like right in the middle of that horn right there. It's really good. I like that. And our brains perceive that, right? Our brains are hardwired to appreciate and look for symmetry. And she's playing on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really well. She's really, really playing on that. Which, to your point, Troy, having this cropped square would push it even more towards that symmetrical kind of idea. But yeah, really nice. Really nice. Thank you, Nora. This is really cool.
Yes,
of course.
Nicely done.
Yeah, I love that light. Giant softbox out there. Or this giant softbox created by the burning jungle that created a fog layer that the light is then, doing this, which is probably true, to be honest with you. Yeah, Nora, tell us, when you shot this, was it smoky out there? I'm curious. All right, up next is Craig Stampley, Just Leave Footprints.
I love that. Yeah, what a great title.
Yeah.
These type of aerial images are just so beautiful, and I'm glad that the rocks are in there at the top. I wish we had a little bit more space around them, but I do really enjoy the layering that we have there. With the cyan color of the water, then the white or the soft white of the break, and then the soft magenta warm tones of the sand. Yeah. I think this is really good.
Yeah, it's like much like Kai's shot, right? With the different the three strata, we'll call it, right? We got the water, and then the break, and then the sand. Actually, it's kind of four. We got wet sand and dry sand in here as well. But yeah, I love it. It's graphical. You instantly know what it is, and I love the fact that it's. I mean, you feel when I look at this, I'm like, oh, he rotated this. It's supposed to be vertical, but it's not. It's not supposed to be vertical. I mean, this is a perfectly accurate shot. I don't know why I feel like my head feels like the water should be coming down or going up or something. So it adds that little bit of tension that it's going horizontal. I don't know why. And then we got this little rock formation over here that kind of breaks it up and gives us a sense of scale as well. Not that we can tell exactly how big or how high the drone was that shot this, but this breaks it up and gives us a little bit of idea of distance and scale and how big these waves were and the beach and all that. If there were footprints, we'd know, but there are no footprints.
Well, there are.
Where? I don't see them. Where are the footprints?
Lower right corner.
Oh, this line vertical. Right here?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so it does give you a sense, right? Like, but yeah, and I was gonna lean into that a little bit. It's like the fact that this image is just all this wonder, and it's wonderful, and you look at all these amazing things, and then you're like, what is that? Like, oh, that's footprints, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the surprise. That's the little secondary hook that I think some of the best images have, is because you look at it, you think you know what it is, and you've kind of figured it out. And then it surprises you, right? It's like a plot twist. You're like, oh, didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it's intentional. That's the thing, right? I mean, these kinds of shots, whether the attention to details comes out in post-processing or when you're shooting it in composition and all that, it's there, right? We know, like in Nora's shot, we know that we know what the artist was thinking when they shot this versus us as the viewer needing to work to kind of figure it out. It's a slap in the face. We know he wanted you to look at these vertical strata here. We know Nora wanted us to look at these rhinoceros sitting in the front or in the dead center of the image, and why she wanted us to look at them. So yeah, not making the viewer work is part of what makes a successful image. And then this one, thick border on here, right? Talk a little bit about that, Troy. I mean, is this good on this shot? Does it work here, or could it have been less aggressive, more aggressive? What do you think?
No, I think this is a perfect example of what a border can and should be, as a baseline neutral border that just supports the image, right? It's not trying to do anything fancy. It's just to give separation from the image, from whatever the image is being looked at or looked on or hung on or presented in what way. This is fantastic. It's very classic, very simple, very traditional image competition style borders for most of our competitions. So yeah, this is well done. This is great.
Yeah, this is really cool. Love it. You could get lost in this shot. Very cool. All right.
Good job, Craig.
Yes, agreed. Moving right along. We've got Michael Brown next. Monarch, first butterfly of the season. Look at that.
Michael.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Love it.
What do you think?
I really dig it. The composition is great. The crop ratio. I love the square form factor. I really love that. I like flower shots where the center of the flower is pretty much in focus, and then when you see the stem, I like to see part of the stem in focus too, because I feel like that really shows the support of the flower. If the petals are out, that's great. And then our butterfly is pretty good. I mean, he's a little bit out, like his wings are in focus, but his face is not, his head is not. But from viewing distance, I mean, it's not egregious, right? So
Yeah.
the color harmony, the combination, I think is really good. I will add though that when you're photographing anything that's a red tone, our cameras are very sensitive to reds, and our brains are very sensitive to reds as well. So watch for overexposure and haloing and all kinds of stuff. Really, when you're photographing these, almost underexpose it a little bit, and then you can bring them up later.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. The only thing I would add to that is, for me, like you were saying, Troy, those highlights are pushing through a little bit too aggressively and fighting with our two hero elements, which is the flower and the monarch. So yeah, I would push the entire background back a little bit, but especially that top. Maybe in Lightroom, if you're using Lightroom, Michael, a gradient, from the upper left hand down to the lower right hand, and kind of just reduce the tones of that upper left hand corner a little bit, just to give us a little bit more pop on the butterfly. If you're concerned with altering the butterfly, it looks like it would be easily selectable in Photoshop now, even with quote older tools. You can select that butterfly and the flower relatively easily and only affect the background. And then lastly, the two things that I think I'd remove from this shot are this little splash of color right here in the upper right. I get rid of that because that's pulling me, literally it's pulling me from the flower through the wing up into that and out of the image. You want me to stay in the image, so I would content aware fill that out of there, or whatever you got to do to get that out of there. And then same thing with this little piece of plant down here in the lower left. I would get rid of that as well, again, just to give us, the viewer, the more opportunity to take in what the main subject is, which is the flower and the monarch. Other than that, great. Love the square crop, works great for this, but push that background back a little bit and get rid of those distracting elements on the upper right and the lower left, and you're rocking and rolling. Really cool.
Love it. Yep. Good points too. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you. All right, more flowers. Awesome. Dr. Eric Pronsky's up next, who's also in the chat. Thank you for coming, Dr. Pronsky. And by the way, folks, welcome. Before we continue, if you're watching this live, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to get those numbers and viewership up on the channel. And make sure you come back for these. We do these every other week, and we love doing them. So yeah, please like and subscribe to this.
4 years.
Has it been 4 years? Oh my God.
Yeah, it's been 4 years.
Man, yeah. I was just a teenager when we started this. That's amazing.
And I had hair.
So. Yeah, as long as we're talking fiction, right? Yeah, Troy out here. I've seen pictures of you with hair, Troy. Should I bring that one up?
We should not. You should not.
Sound off in the chat if you want me to bring the picture of Troy when he had hair. No, I won't do that. All right. Dr. Eric Pronsky's up next. He says spiderworts. We had a super bloom season of wildflowers this spring, much like much of the West. This is a focus stacked image to get all the spiderworts in focus. Golden ground cells are providing the yellow background. Does the yellow background enhance or detract from the image? I did darken them a bit. Okay, let's take a look. Yeah, that's a good question. Troy, what do you think?
It's funny that I didn't actually read the description, and while you were talking there a minute, I'm looking at this. I'm like, this has to be focus stacked. Like there is just no way this is not stacked. Um, so well done with the stacking. By the way, I love that. I will say, when you stack an image and you increase the depth of field, don't forget though to use depth of field to your advantage now that you have control over it, right? So the main flower in the lower front, like the big bloom, is equally as sharp and competes for attention as does the other three blooms. And what I would say is don't be afraid to like let the others fall out of focus slightly. You control that depth of field now that you have all that range, as opposed to making it flat, because then it kind of comes across as like a cutout, right? And
Yeah.
that's really not what you want. So very well done. I love that. The yellow, man, I'm really struggling with the yellow because I like the fact that it ties in to the flowers themselves. What is that, like the stamen or whatever? Um,
hmm
but it's a little bit hot, and maybe the yellow can stay if it's not as bright. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. That's a tough one. I think. Yeah. Let me think about that. I think that the yeah first what your comments on the focus stacking, and when you kind of push it a little bit too far, it makes your subject appear like it's a cutout laying on top of a background. Yeah, we definitely, for sure, this is not quite there yet, but it could, it's right on the edge there. The color, though, on the one hand, I like the bright yellow in the background out of focus because it's definitely providing contrast for the purple in the foreground, and a sort of narrative element between the I forget what those things are called scientifically or in botany, but the sex organs of the flower that are sticking up there. So
I think it's a stamen, right? Isn't
the
it? I don't know.
stamen,
Somebody in
okay,
the chat will tell us.
those things,
They're
those
smarter
yellow
than we are.
things. Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm a human, not a flower, man. Come on. But yeah, I like the fact that those two colors, those tie in together and kind of tell that story a little bit. But maybe the flowers in the background, the yellow ones, are a little bit too bright, a little bit too on the nose, obvious. On the one hand, they're clearly blurred flowers. So if we're tying those to the stamen from the purple flowers, I need to see a little bit more of them. So they're working together. They're almost like a co-star that's too far out of frame or too out of focus or something. So I want to see a little bit more detail, maybe not that much more detail, but if you're focus stacking, you have control over it. So maybe a little bit more detail of those, but maybe lower the values of them a little bit so they're not popping out as much color wise. So that's that. I wouldn't take them out. I like them in there because the whole harmony of the colors definitely works together. But I think where I'm getting lost at is the fact that those back flowers are a little bit too out of focus, and they're creating too much mystery there. Then the only other thing that I would throw in there is that this petal off to the left here that's getting cut off there, that's bugging me. Like,
Hmm.
it's getting cut off. I want to see. I don't know why. I know it's probably long. It's probably way down here or something. But I don't know what you could do about that, Troy. Maybe you could tell us. Would you AI that out of there? Would you leave it in there? Like, what would you do? Or does it bother you at all? What do you think?
No, it definitely bothers me. I mean, I have to leave stuff for you to talk about, so that's why
Oh,
I didn't
thank you. I
mention it.
appreciate it. You're
Um,
so magnanimous.
as per my initial, comment about the depth of field, that to me should be out of focus as it's leaving the frame, very much like you have the main stem. and you can soften it, use your your stacked images to find the soft one and blend it in, and then darken it ever so slightly, because going a little bit dark and going a little bit soft, you won't even notice it, right? You're just going to
Yeah.
ignore it. But the fact that it's sharp and it leaves the edge of the frame, and that's going to draw your attention a little bit. And we're getting really nitpicky with that, but hey, the image is that good, we have to get that picky.
Yeah. Yeah. And Eric says, well, first of all, he says those little bits are called stamens. Thank you for Dr. Pronsky for correcting us. Stamens or stamens. But then he says about that little petal there that it wasn't cut off in the upload. Interesting. Like, how is it now? We'll have to continue that dialogue because, yeah, the software, like when you're uploading, it's not doing any cropping or otherwise changing the image, to my knowledge, other than some compression. But yeah, if you're saying it's cropping off, we need to investigate that further. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, interesting. But cool shot. Very cool. And thank you for sharing, Eric.
Yeah,
This is
love
great.
the colors. Yeah.
Yeah, he did say he did darken the background a little bit. I think, yeah, making them a little bit darker, yes, for sure. But also, I want to see a little bit, maybe even if this flower right here in the middle is closer than these two, then maybe make this one, a little bit of these a little bit sharper, not tack sharp, but just a little bit, so we get a little bit of detail in there and can connect the dots between these stamen or stamen and that object back there. So, now I got to look that up.
It's a stamen.
Stamen.
Ladunarina and Eric Pronsky both put it in there for us with the correct spelling, so now I know how to spell it. So,
Yeah, but is it stamen or stamen? Stamen or
Stamen.
stamen? Potato.
stamen. It's stamen. Come on. It's everybody knows that.
I skipped that damn botany. All right, Phil's up next. He says Monday.
Cool. Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
I love this. Yeah, I mean, not much to say about this, but go ahead.
I say this as a compliment. It makes me uncomfortable. It makes me feel like I'm being inundated, like it's coming after me, and that maybe that's not your intention, but the chaos of the waves, the blur, the intensity that's happening, even the rock is kind of subdued in there, so I feel like it's just incredibly powerful. I mean, I like it, but it's definitely a little threatening.
Really? You feel like it? Oh, interesting. But that's consider the source, though, right? Because you don't like the ocean, period.
It's not my favorite. I like it from a distance. I don't want it attacking me, right? Like, I don't want to be in the waves.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But yeah.
Yeah, not much to say about this. Phil does a great job with this series. I mean, it's this fantastic how he sort of incorporated the documenting and creating artwork from this stretch of California coastline that is completely different every time he goes out there. It's like an embarrassment of riches. And with his long exposure technique and using the neutral density filter kind of flow that he's worked out, it is, it's got to just be pure fun to go out there and capture and bring it back home and see what you got and do some editing and share it. I mean, life doesn't get much better than that.
Good stuff. Yeah, really good stuff. Yeah. And
really cool.
This image is a really good example of simplicity and minimalism, and the fact that less is more. And I think that it's easier for us to agree on a simple image is good as opposed to a complex image is good, because there's less for us to find in it that bothers us or whatever. So yeah, I appreciate the simplicity of this a lot because I really like that.
Yeah. Likewise. Less is more. Very cool. Yeah, and this big rock here anchoring it is just, it's just enough detail in here for you to kind of feel what's happening with the water crashing here and then flying straight up, and then just this flow here and this immovable surface right there. Yeah, it's just enough. I like it. Very good, Phil. Thank you.
Yep. Good job.
All right. Who's up next? Mr. Rhino. Michael Rhino says, my entry in the nature critique is this image from a visit to nearby Roxborough State Park, Colorado last week. You know, he's just bragging because he has this embarrassment of scenic riches around him, right?
He does. Like, he is such a target-rich environment. And, you know, not that there isn't skill required to go capture these, but dang, man.
Right.
So, love the image. I love the feel. I especially love all that green. You know, to me, the green is very soothing. It's an outdoor color, and I really love that. The only thing that I can say is that I wish that this was shot in better light, and you don't really have control of that. I think that the soft and muted tones are nice, but I don't think that it does the the texture and the mass and the depth of the valley and all that, you know, the justice that it can be done. It's about the quality of light for this one. So this is an amazing image. I love it. It's beautiful to look at, but you know, with better light, it would just be phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree. Really nice. You know, looking at this shot, it reminds me of who did the shot of Half Dome? Was it Kai? I think it was. But yeah, so similar kind of idea here where you get the sky foreground or midground and then the foreground. Not all balanced the same, but like you were saying, what if you cropped off one edge of those to add more interest in Kai's shot? This is what Michael did here. So less sky and more foreground in this case. And like I was saying on that other photo with half ground was below the horizon line. In this one, our rock formations are breaking the horizon line, which I feel like adds a little bit more interest to it. That's what I was trying to convey in that last one. But yeah, I like this one. It's really cool. And La Dunarina in the chat said something about this not having a golf course. Yeah. So now that you spoke that into existence, probably next year there'll be a golf course here or something.
Well, it's a national park, so
or a parking lot. Yeah, something. So who knows? Yeah. So beautiful. And the border, you're happy with that as well? The kind of brown color?
Yeah, I think it's nice. Yeah, I think the border lends itself to this. I mean, I would like it a couple stops darker. I mean, I'm a big fan of darker borders because I feel like it lifts the image off the background, right? So, but that's just such personal preference. I mean, throughout my career in competitions and all that kind of stuff, I mean, I was almost always a black background. So, you know, I'm just looking for the highest contrast separation. But this is nicely done. Yeah, this is nice.
How do you personally add? Do you have like an action or something set up to add borders to your shot, or are you doing the here's the size I want, fill it with the color, and put another layer with my image on top of it, and scale it down to reveal my border? Like what's your flow?
So Photoshop, because in competition, and then you can do this at any scale, but in competition, you want your image to be 4,000 pixels on the longest side at 200 DPI. So I start with a canvas that's 4,000 by 4,000 at 200 DPI. I drop my image in that background on that canvas, so creating another layer. I size the image using free transform. I know, but the quality is good at that level. And then I say I'm done. I align the image where I want. And then, without any sizing or resolution changes, I crop the whole thing to fit the composition that I want, whether I want equal borders all the way around or not. And then I'm done. And now you've got two layers. So then you take your top layer, and then I'm a big fan of adding a stroke directly on the image, not necessarily away from the image, like what you have here on Michael's. It's just personal preference. I like to put the stroke on the image. So.
Okay. Interesting. 4,000 by 4,000 at 200 DPI, you said? Yeah.
Yep.
And then you like I said, you have a layer for the background color, and then then you put the actual image on the layer above that. Command T, hold down Option, I'm guessing, scale down to let it scale to the middle.
I don't know what it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Option. Yeah, to have it scale equally on all sides. When you
Right.
drag the corner, you bring it in a little bit, boom. Now you've got your border, and then you do the crop after that, right? So,
Yeah.
like, what? That's the piece I got lost in, like the final crop. How does that work again?
So if you have an image that's 4,000 by 4,000 pixels, as long as
Hmm.
you grab the longest edge, whether it's a vertical or a horizontal, it stays 4,000 pixels, and you're just changing the short side to whatever you want. Because
Oh,
it's just,
okay. I got you.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's going
yeah.
to crop those pixels off. The nice thing is that when that's all done, you can go in and you can change the stroke at any time. You can change the background at any time. You can even move your image around or resize it or whatever, and it's always manageable, right? You can always change it if you change your mind, as opposed to like dropping them on top of a layer that you can't move, or flattening it,
Yeah.
which can be frustrating. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and,
and I
and you
just
know
do it
what?
manually.
For when you're doing those kinds of edits to the image where you've got layers, I know you don't do that kind of extensive stuff for all your images, but for the ones that you do, that you've got a Photoshop document with a number of layers in it. You've got a border version of it at 4,000 by 4,000 that you've exported, and then presumably you might have some social media resolution versions of that image as well that you need to get out. So once you have all that done and the image is done, do you just throw it in a folder for that image? Do you keep all those bits and pieces, or do you chuck the Photoshop document when you're done and just be done with it? Like what happens? I feel like there's a Troy folder for like special images that has all the different assets in there, the raw file, the Photoshop file, all that. What's
No,
the truth, Troy
no,
Miller? What's the truth?
I don't. I save the master edited file. Any versions that I make for anything like social media, printing at the lab, sharing with clients, those go into a temporary folder that I purge every couple of months.
Oh, you don't keep
Because
them. Oh, wow.
no, because I can always go back to the finished image and just output it again.
Hmm.
So I don't save versions because there's no need to. If somebody says, "Hey, can you send me that as a thumbnail real quick? I want to post it on social media." I'm like, "Yeah." Go to Capture One, go open up the file, export social media preference, done. Send it, delete it, move on. I just save the
Interesting.
masters. Only save the masters
Only see the message. How often does that happen? Do you have a client that requests something like that?
all the time.
Okay, so it makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Cool. All right. Prevail Golf Tournament. Um, yeah, this is cool, Michael Rhino. Very cool. I feel like I need a horse in here, like right in here somewhere, or a model, right, or something. Yeah, very cool. Thank you, sir. All right, Paolo Bassetti's up next. He says natural gradient. I reckon you can guess this
Yeah,
place. Yeah, of course. Look at that. Again,
yeah. And look,
we're seeing the power of threes here, right? Threes in
yeah,
Strata. It works for a reason. What do you think?
yeah. Yeah, I love this a lot. I mean, this is a really hard place to shoot and share your images from, because there've been so many images from these locations that we sort of have like this predefined expectation of what's going to come out of there. So I really appreciate the tighter crop, the compression that's happening here, and the focus about a third of the way in, as opposed to like focus stacking or a high depth of field where everything is completely in focus and sharp all the way through. I like I like shallower depth of field. I think it gives me a sense of space and depth. And I normally wouldn't like the top left corner being bright, because I
Yeah,
feel like it draws me out of the frame. But in this case, it really feels like it's a tunnel that I want to climb through, or that's my exit. That's where I need to go. So it works in this case really, really well. So Paolo, great, beautiful image, and what a wonderful deviation from a lot of the street photography that you've been showing, as of late. So this is kind of cool. This is really cool.
yeah, I agree. And there's that border that I mentioned earlier that he does that I'm a big fan of. With even it's branded, right? Even though we see the majority, I'd argue, of Paolo's work is street photography, and then you see him do some kind of abstract landscape photography like this with the same aspect ratio and the
Yeah.
same border. It's just it adds to a cohesive body of work. So yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, and I would say I think that maybe, and I'm just sort of like interpreting Paolo, but it seems to me like he's looking at this the same way that he might look at like street photography, right? He sees a point in the image that he likes. That's where he's focused. The shallower depth of field, so you don't get those distractions that are going on. It really does work well here. And one of the things that happened to me because being a portrait and wedding photographer for so long is that I really was really crappy at landscapes. And every time I would shoot a landscape, like we'd be out and we'd be photographing the saguaro cactuses and stuff. And my buddy's like, dude, you photograph everything like there's a bride in your shots. And he was right. Like I was shooting it. Everything was like 2.8 f4, the foreground, the background's out of focus. And so I had to like think twice, like, yeah, I do want the mountains in focus, right? So, but in this case, I think this works super wonderfully, right? Like that's leaning into that a third of the way into the frame, and there's where you want to like sit and read a book all day. So
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I have yet to get to this. Where is this again? Is this Arizona, or this is like I forget where. This is where all those cool rock formations are that
yeah,
are close to me and I
I
never
couldn't.
have a chance to get to.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. It's
Yeah.
probably no surprise to you that I will not go down into those canyons.
Why not? You got the gear to do it. You've got all.
I
You got all.
can't. I can't, man.
Folks that are watching
I
and
would need
listening to
to be.
this, this guy has he's basically Mad Max, Mad Max that has now embraced electric, but he's also
Uh,
Mad Max with all the things, ATVs and trailers, and he's that
yeah.
guy. But he won't go here for some reason. I don't know.
No.
Looks
No,
too
look,
much like water.
I'll climb a ladder and swing from a rope from tree to tree and paint a house and do stuff like that, but I will not go down in those canyons.
Because you want to get out again.
My body, my body absolutely refuses to let me go in there.
Yeah, I hear you. That's how it was when I jumped out of a plane. I did skydiving and jumped out of the plane. I'll tell you, it was tandem jump. Obviously, it wasn't just me. But from the point, like getting in the plane, you're all like, yeah, whatever, it's nothing. Millions of people have done this before. I can do this. But then you get in the plane and the nervousness starts. And you're like, my brain was thinking, I'm not landing with this plane. so, and then you get up to altitude or whatever, and when you strap in with your instructor and jump out of that plane, I can't even explain it, man. It was like a involuntary self-preservation reaction that kicked in. I wasn't in control anymore. My body was just like, no, we're not getting out, like a cat that you're trying to shove into a box or something. Like, I'm not getting out of this plane, and like I'm holding the door like this, so I'm like, I'm not getting out of the plane, and they had to grab my arms and pull them down and then jump out of the plane. Once you're out of the plane, it was fantastic. I'd do it again and again, but it was that one hump that I was just like not in control. So I hear it. Your self-preservation, that is a correct instinct. so,
Yeah.
so my only thoughts on Paolo's shots here, or this shot here, I love it. I love the gradient, like he said in the title, from purples all the way into the warms up here. The only changes that I would make, and I'm curious what you think about this, Troy. So street photographer Paolo, of course, is not going to change anything in the image, right? But he could. He has the power to. He has the same software and computers that we do. So I'm looking at like these little bits of dried vegetation that are here. I feel like I'd want to take those out of there and just, just kind of let the viewer enjoy these natural lines of this rock formation or erosion of this structure here. But I feel like I would have taken those out. Would you have taken those out, or do you feel like they need to stay in there?
I probably would not have taken them out. I mean, not in this scenario. If I was going to enter this in competition, I would have to think long and hard about whether or not to remove those, because one, I would like to see them gone because I think they're slightly distracting. But two, I'm probably going to get a photographer that's going to see this and be like, you took out, the fungus or whatever, right? The
Yeah,
the
yeah.
the the rock leaching or whatever. And I'd be like, yeah, you caught me there. So I don't know. I really enjoy it the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be that would be I would I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I
I don't
mean,
know.
I mean, it's telling that you think your Photoshop skills aren't up to par. That you couldn't remove that stuff without being noticed, Troy.
Well, it's not that that the Photoshop skills, but it's somebody who's photographed there before. I think
Oh,
that's
they'd
a
be like,
permanent.
there's always vegetation on those rocks, and how come yours don't have
Yeah,
it? That kind of thing. Yeah, maybe.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I would think. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
But cool shot though, really cool. Still dig
Yeah,
that
those are.
border.
It's yeah.
Like Paolo, what is that? What is that aspect ratio? Is that a 4:3? That's 4:3, right? Or is it 3:2? I always get those mixed up. I don't know. Sound off in the chat, Paolo. What is your aspect ratio? I'm curious. All right, moving. We only have a couple more. Thanks for hanging in there with us. We're probably just going to go about another 10 minutes, and we'll wrap up here, folks. Paolo says that's 3:2 aspect ratio. Excellent. Cool. All right. Um, what's that?
I just read Ladunarita's comment about the guy who had his arm cut off in a canyon like that. Did he go back for it later? Just
Yeah.
like, oh my
Yeah.
god, that just like struck me so. Okay, focus.
Focus. We're almost through it, Troy. We're
Movie.
almost through it. We're almost through it. We can do this. All right. Next up is Rick Killboy, Coral Honeysuckle.
Rick Killboy, I love it.
That. Yay, Rick.
Great, great image. I've been looking at this one back and forth, like scrolling through the feed, and I keep coming back to this one, and I really, really, really like it. The simplicity, the abstractness of this, I'm really enjoying. A couple things. The background is great. I think whether you placed it there on purpose or you found it or whatever. I think that's wonderful. It's not centered well, right? Like it's a little high, and the right and the left, or the bottom and the right, are too heavy in the background. Also, I get this sense that like maybe you photographed it from standing up or sitting in a chair, as opposed to, I would have loved to have seen it from like eye level of the honeysuckle, right? Like get
Mm.
down low, more abstracty. But even the way it is, I really dig it.
Yeah. Yeah. This is fun. I love the sort of the color. What's it called? The play on color, right? We've got our kind of natural wood background and then natural red in the foreground. This thing, I'll get back to the composition in a second. But I looked at this. You know what I saw here, because you know how my brain works. This is like some sort of monster right here, with
Yeah.
things coming out of its mouth to get its prey, and that's his little head up there. Um, yeah, but I agree. So on the crop, we're a little bit too close to the top edge here and the bottom. So I feel like it wants to be in the middle, but it's not in the middle. And I feel like you probably could have put it in the middle by giving it a little bit more space at the top, or just panning up if you want this particular aspect ratio for a reason. The other thing that I throw in there is these diagonal lines in here, with this crossing them almost uh, perpendicular to the lines. I think I'd want this not to be perfectly perpendicular, right? Because it's nature. Nature doesn't do anything for the most part that's perpendicular or perfect like that. So I might rotate this just a little bit so that it's not crossing the line so on the nose like that. Um, Other than that, yeah, it's really cool. I mean, this part right here of this plant, this honeysuckle, is arguably one of the brightest parts of the image, and maybe even the whole thing is a subject. But I think this is a more interesting part of the subject. So I might have kind of leaned into that a little bit, and maybe added a ever so slight vignette around that to draw our eyes in to this area, and maybe pop those yellows a little bit to make it even more obvious. But that's just playing, right? That's just you in Photoshop trying different variants. But it's fun. Yeah, I love it. This is a cool shot. Really cool. And definitely fits with our subject. It is natural.
Yes. Yep. Bravo.
Yes. Rick Killboy in the house. All right. Next up is Mr. Jim Peters, Mountains, Tufa, and Osprey at Mono Lake.
Yes. And it's
All right.
mono, by the way. Mono.
Is it mono, not mono?
Yeah.
See?
Yeah, it's mono.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Potato.
Mono's
potato. Potato.
Well, no, not according to a local. Mono is a disease. Mono is the name of like the Indian tribe or whatever the local.
Well,
I don't
mean,
know.
If you want to get nerdy, mono means one.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay,
not that I know anything. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I just like to correct you. That's the most fun.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I allow minions to correct me every now and then. It's okay. It's fun. It's like a cat with a toy.
Oh man.
All right, Mono Lake. Yeah. It's Mono Lake. All right. So, what do you think of this shot by Jim Peters of Mono Lake? That's going to be hard for me to correct that.
I like it. You know, I'm glad that he made it out there. I know he's on a road trip or something, and him and I chatted a little bit. So I'm glad that he made it out there. I know right where he's at photographing this, and it's a really cool. I'm really impressed to see so much of the snow in the mountains behind that. Because you just rarely ever see that. So it's such a beautiful background. The problem with Mono Lake is that. With an image like this is you have so much depth, but yet it all looks flat because it's all in focus for the most part.
Yeah, it's compressed.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that he photographed it with a long lens to get the osprey nest that's on the top of the tufa. And then, of course, when you crop in, now everything's compressed and everything's sharp. So that's always hard there. Compositionally, shooting it at monos can be really, really tough. So I mean, I love it. I love the tonal compositions. I love the layers that we have. That's really wonderful. I wish the background was slightly soft. And I feel like it's leaning to the right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Right there.
Yeah, and those tufas don't lean. They're vertical. So
yeah, look at that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I see that too. That's one of the biggest things of this shot. I feel like there's a lot of potential for just look. I've never been to Mono Lake, but I've seen shots for a ton of shots executed in different ways. When I look at this shot, I agree with you 100%. The choice of compression of that whatever lens he was using, or device, maybe it was a phone or something, but it does, we're getting lost with the grandeur of those mountains in the background, dramatic clouds on top of that, and then this curious structure in this lake in the foreground. I'm not sure what to look at when I look at this shot. So, and then the tilted horizon, of course, takes me further out of the image. For a shot like this, I would have leaned into one or the other. Jim, like lean into the mountain range in the background being the subject and the rest being supporting characters for that, or lean into this Mono Lake rock sculpture formation here in the middle of the lake and that crazy reflection that's right underneath it. I feel like that might have been an interesting photo as well, to kind of get up and shoot a little bit at a downward angle to show the reflection here, and of course with a proper crop and horizon, we're got a completely different shot at that point. But really cool. Yeah, this area, I think, what is this? This is like, from me, Troy, what is this? Maybe 2 hours, something like that?
You have to get to it from a weird path. So like if there's no snow closing the passes, I think you can be there in 2 or 3 hours. But if the pass is closed, it's like 6 hours.
Oh.
But it is one of the most beautiful places and one of my favorite places. And there's also Bodie Ghost Town is not far from there. Mammoth is not far from there. There's just so much, we go out there and go mountain biking. So, and one of my favorite places to photograph the moon is over Mono Lake. So yeah, it's a really cool place. Yeah, it's wonderful. Really cool. And it's neat to see all that snow this late in the season, because I don't think I've ever been up there outside of like winter and seen snow. So there's still a lot of snow up there.
Wow. Really cool. Awesome shot. Thank you, Jim Peters, for that. All right. And was that the last one? Let me reload,
I
make
think
sure I
the
didn't.
last, yeah. I just did the same thing. I was like, okay, did we miss any?
Did we miss any? I think we got everybody. Don't want to miss people. And that is it. Yes. All right. That's it. Do you have a favorite, Mr. Troy Miller? I'm going to bring my favorite up now. I have a favorite.
Can I have two? Can I have two favorites?
No.
Okay,
You got to pick one. You got to pick one.
Can't. You're going to have to be the tiebreaker because for me,
I'll be the tiebreaker.
it's between Kai's and Paolo's.
Yeah.
And both of them to me they're super recognizable and they're incredibly iconic. You know, it's not just that they're great photographs, but they're iconic and they're these representatives of, you know, nature. They're both national parks. So, you know, and I'm partial to Yosemite for a lot of reasons. So
yeah,
I leaned Kai's a little bit, but those are both really, really wonderful.
Yeah, they're all great. You know, I like Nora's a lot too, and I like Paolo's a lot. So our common one between our two selections is Paolo. So
there you go. Okay,
we'll have to go with
fair enough.
Paolo's. Let me bring it up here. Yeah, this one, the rock strata. Yeah, so or the rock formation here, or erosion, as it were. Yeah, this is a cool shot. I like this on a lot of levels. I mean, it's interesting that area because we see a lot of shots similar to this out there, but they're all different. Obviously, none of the ones, you know, nothing that you see out there or any photograph is going to be exactly like any other one. But this one, I think, even though it's of a often photographed area or subject, I like the way that he as an artist saw the gradient that he wanted to convey and you know, leaned into that whole thing, right? So we've got our strong purples and then our sort of fuchsia-ish brownish mid ground and the yellowish brown background up here, and it's just pleasing all the way through. And then the border traps it all together. It makes you feel like you're looking through a portal into, you know, some fantastic place. So really cool. I like it. So, Paolo, you are the next contestant on The Price is Right. You got it.
Confetti. This is confetti.
I know.
Confetti falling.
I need a special effect for that. Is there a special effect? I need special effects. Can I do applause? How about this? Too much? No? I'm trying to incorporate interesting sound effects. It just doesn't work. There are none. There are none.
Back when Windows 95 came out, that was clever, but not now.
Not now. Yeah. I'm gonna put a little clippy a little clippy guy in the corner of the image of the stream.
Clippy's coming back.
He is. It is. Yes. All right, cool. So we're good. We got Paolo Bassetti as this week's favorite shot. Congratulations, Paolo. And then our next photo critique will be on the 3rd. Wow, already into the next one. July 3rd of 2023 will be the next photo critique. Troy, you're on the spot. Do you have a topic for the next photo critique?
Well, I have an idea for a topic. But yes, I have a topic. I think that it would be wonderful to do black and white.
Just black and white. Okay.
Yeah, just black and white. Yeah, yeah. Okay. And you know, this might be a little bit easy for Phil. So Phil, you know, I'm not catering to you, even though you sent me that check. But no, I think that black and white would be really wonderful because, as we've talked about a little bit in this particular critique, I mean, the idea of having to think in monochrome, using depth of field and light to create depth and composition and stuff it's always challenging. So, you know, converting an image or creating a new image, like that's fine, but like look at like black and white and like how can you tell your story and your style, you know, using black and white. So yeah,
love it. Or monochrome no, black and white, right? So do you so when you say you want like no color,
black and white,
not toned, right? Okay.
Right.
So, okay, cool.
Right. Yeah.
So grayscale monochrome or black and white. Black and white is black or white, but anything in between those two ranges could be your shot.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, no
not
color.
not a sepia, not any of that stuff. So what about infrared counts, right? Black and white converted infrared shots will count.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what about restrictions on this? Are we going to Phil Leuenthal's point? Are we going proper photography, or can it be, anything that you dream up using whatever tools you have available to you?
In these critiques, I am always okay to critique images, because whether it's photographic or it's generative or it's a painting or it's a hand drawing, like it's all the same. Everybody can take away, from that image and use it in their own art later. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I've learned the most, I think, compositionally from looking at paintings. And then I apply that to my photography. So, I'm looking at this as images, because it's all about, seeing your visual art really is what it is. So
Yeah, as long as it's, all the rules apply though, right? Composition, lighting,
sure.
crop, all of that, So yeah, interesting. So have at it, basically. Come as you are with whatever kind of image that you want to generate, as long as it is black and white or monochrome in the grayscale kind of field. And yeah, we'll go from there. This should be interesting. We did this a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of critiques ago, where we left it open like that, but we didn't get anyone that submitted things that were outside of, quote, traditional photography, which is fine as well. So it's just interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
So
love it.
Yeah. Shackles are off. All right, folks, we'll leave it right there. So obviously, when we end the stream, the replay will be available for this if you care to put yourself through that. Again, our next critique is going to be, if you are a TWiP community member, you can submit into the member area for this critique, or the events area for members. That's going to be on the 3rd. And if you are not a TWiP member, you can do so or become one at join.thisweekinphoto.com. And with that, we'll leave it right there. Troy Miller, you have a great week, man. Go out there and do something interesting.
Too,
other than working on your yard. Do something other than that.
No, I want to go build another fence. I'm going to go work. I love being outside working on my yard.
More post holes. More, right? Is that what you're doing out there? Drinking up? Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
No, I'm gonna put up corrugated steel around an area where I'm going to be building a barbecue. So.
Oh, very cool. Okay. Tell me you're doing a time lapse of this whole transformation of your yard. No. Ugh. At least a before and after. You got a before
I
shot?
have photos.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't have a time lapse now. I think about it, and then I'm like, I'll just destroy the camera. I'll forget about it, or get knocked over, or it's not a safe space for cameras.
All right. Yeah, you got raccoons back there would probably steal it, right?
Yeah.
All right, folks, we'll leave it right there. Thank you, Troy, for once again popping in and doing this, and thanks to all the folks that participated in our chat. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks, and if you're a TWiP member, we'll see you in a couple of days at the Mixer. Cool.
Yep,
All right, everybody.
Awesome.
Have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you soon.
Take care, everyone.